Welcome back to the Seasoned Millennial. If you grew up traumatized by Tim Curry's Pennywise or re-traumatized by Bill Skarsgård's version of the character, well, episode 5 of Welcome to Derry just returned one of horror's most iconic villains. And I've been looking forward to this particular episode for watching the last 4. I'm like, build up. And I'm excited to share kind of what I saw and how I felt about everything in this episode. So I feel the characters were, the tone of stuff, how things were going. They kind of understood something was going to happen. Something's going to reveal itself. An interesting part was when Maddie returned and the kids were like, "Oh my gosh, Maddie's back!" Which was the first kid that was in the very first episode that it basically took him in that car, with the family. And you could immediately tell just looking at him that something was off when he was on screen. You're like, he looked awfully pale, kind of like a zombie-like. And he was kind of speaking in words where it didn't quite make sense. But, the kids were like, "Oh, yeah, what happened? Where were you?" And Lily being the character she is, she was like, "Tell me more. What's going on? Where are the other kids?" And then I guess Maddie was kind of pointing out that 2 of the 3 kids were dead, or implied one was dead, and that Phil, which was one of the kids in the first episode that was in the cinema movie theater scene where it was that whole slaughter scenario, might still be alive in the sewers. So just kind of paint a picture that's there. And then Lily's like, "Okay, maybe we should go help him." And obviously a little bit of that story to get the kids together to kind of go there. Which was great. I think it set the right kind of basis to reasoning for them to be able to go there. And while at the same time, Leroy's character, just really was like, I need to figure out what the heck is going on. Went to the general, was like, "General, you need to give me some more details on what's going on." And this is like one of my favorite characters in this whole series is Dick Halloran's character. Big fan of the Shining series. So I was really interested in how the lore was being emphasized on in factors that kind of connects to Doctor Sleep and to obviously The Shining. And they kind of weighed in on some of the stuff where when Dick Halloran's character, they finally get the guidance from the general to they knew where it was on Nobald Street, I think that's the name of the street, where they figured out where the entity or the way to get to him was in the episode. That when they went in with a few of the soldiers, Dick Halloran kind of went in his own thing, that utilizing The Shining. And it was very cool when he kind of, the scenes were this showing, and I really like a lot of the CGI in this particular one. I feel the production was a lot better than you probably see in most movies nowadays. But where you kind of dipped in the water and came out and ended up being in like a tub. Seems like it was like one of his, either his childhood home or his grandparents' home, but his grandmother was there and she was kind of warning him and whatnot. And his grandfather popped in the screen. So it's a very interesting interaction. Obviously, he's being traumatized in a way. He's like, "Look, I got these powers, but I'm obviously seeing some stuff." So where they went into the lore of the box, where it emphasized that Dick Halloran's character was saying about he puts a lot of his bad thoughts or evil thoughts and whatnot in that box, and how this box throughout this episode kind of reveals itself as like letting everything out, and towards the end of the episode, obviously there's like 2 concurrent things going on, but for him it's like, what does it mean that this box opened and like all his bad thoughts and everything are coming out? So it kind of builds up to this. Now I'm looking forward to the next episode of like what's going to happen to Dick Halloran, and what is he going through aside from at least being able to go in there and come out unharmed, at least physically, but mentally you could kind of tell he was traumatized quite a bit. But while this is all going on, interesting part is Lily kind of gets the kids together. They head down to the sewers, and this was the part where I was kind of like, I think Maddie is the entity or Pennywise, and I mean whatever, just go with it. When they went in there, and then when it showed him like the reveal, it was such a perfect way to kind of put it together, because the way I see it is, I know a lot of people are like, I mean, I sit and watch it with my wife, and I was trying to explain to her, and she wasn't necessarily in the whole lore of the things or understand the whole concept of like Stephen King and how he built this macroverse and how everything's somewhat connected together, and how Pennywise, is like some cosmic being from the macroverse that apparently is older than our universe. So all this sort of stuff, she's like, what is going on? So these things are all interesting, but it's interesting to see that she caught on and was also interested in the story as we went through, I think, episode 2 through 3 and then 4. She was like kind of understood everything. But then in this episode, it kind of panned out and kind of showed itself where, you know, the you get a better grasp of stuff. So when we got the reveal, we were both like, she was excited, I was excited. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Pennywise. And it was perfect. I love Bill Skarsgård's interpretation of it. Like, he just has that look. Now, maybe because I was a kid when I saw the Tim Curry version of Pennywise, that stuck to me for the reasons being that I was a little kid. But putting them next to each other, definitely this version, this interpretation of him looks scarier. And I think they didn't go too overboard with the CGI where you felt it was like way too CGI-ish, but there's a lot of camera shaking. That's the one thing I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but I understand because they need to build some sort of, you know, a gotcha scare moment, but you kind of get the scene, and this was my favorite part of the whole episode, where you see Pennywise downed like this sewer line at the end. You just kind of see his silhouette there, and he's because the kids are trying to get out. They finally see this, they escape him, and one of them gets stuck behind. It's Lily, and she turns around and just sees his shadow, and he starts talking to her and coming out. And I just love the way he speaks. It's very it's got this set tone. It's not yelling, it's not screaming, it's not like, it's just right, the right kind of scare, in my opinion, on the approach on how he came to basically tell her, hey, I was the one, I lured you in here, and thanks to you brought all the other kids. So, but the other kids technically did get away, and she was stuck there. But this was the cool part. So a little piece I left out was that from the previous episode, they found out there was this part of the pillars or something that's part of the ship or way that he came to Earth, the Pennywise, that could apparently kill him. And that's what the native tribe were utilizing to keep this kind of creature where he was in Derry, but also to damage him from, I guess Rose was, that's the way she saved General Francis. And I think they showed it in like 2 or 3 episodes ago. But as Pennywise did the whole like open his teeth, which I love the way he did that, where his mouth, his jaw just opens up, and he was ready to, you know, basically devour her. He like stops in his footing right there where something starts glowing in the water, and Lily's like, what is this? So apparently that was the piece where from when the soldiers went in, they brought that in knowing that they could utilize it, but he was afraid of it, so kind of backed out, and he backed off and walked away. So I think there's a lot of buildup in this episode for what's to come. What I really appreciate in particular is it's no more like dragging on in a way, because there's a lot of character building in the last few episodes, and this one was more like we understand who's who. Like it did show briefly earlier in the episode, like Hank was being sent to Shawshank, which is also part of the lore, Shawshank Redemption. Huge fan of that movie, and so excited that that's being referenced as well. And his bus crashes on the way there. He escapes, and like this whole story about all these different things taking place. But I think it's the right kind of world building where we know what's going on. All the characters are introduced. Now it's more of the, okay, what's going to happen? Like we now have the reveal of Pennywise, which the reveal itself in my eyes was like a 9 out of 10. The episode, in my opinion, I think it was more, like a 7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. But I just, for me, because like he would still, the entity would reveal himself in different forms to the adults. versus to the kids, and that's kind of what's making it cool. But now, since they show him, I'm assuming moving forward in the next, I think there's only 3 more episodes left from the season. I'm guessing Pennywise is going to be out and about in full form, or at least I'm hoping that's the case. So something that was very important in the episode, it kind of got me excited, was the very, very end, what it showed about Dick Halloran, the way he made it out of the sewer, and unfortunately Paulie got shot, and I didn't really weigh in on that. Halloran, he got Harlan accidentally shot him, where he was like, he saw the kids coming out. He was like, "What the heck are the kids doing in the sewer?" But Paulie apparently died in there. But then he came out as like a zombie. Now this part I'm not entirely in tune with what part of the lore of the Stephen King universe or macroverse this kind of falls in. But he looked like a zombie, so I'm going to look a little further into it to kind of understand what that is. But Dick's reaction to seeing him, kind of in that white eyes instead of like the way you see his face, it just obviously looked like he's dead, and it reflected back on that box that I was referencing, where it now opened, and the scene or the episode ended showing that the box is open and there's something glowing out of there. So my takeaway is we're going to weigh a lot more coming up on what's going on with Halloran's vision on things, or The Shining, and I'm kind of looking forward if he's going to go full blown Shining against Pennywise. Like, is Pennywise going to show up and be like, "Let's go," how they're going to throw down. But at the same time, it's kind of, there's a lot of buildup here, and obviously no reference to it in the actual It movies later on. So it's got to end in a way where, as if nothing ever happened. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. So stay tuned. Well, I'll give you another review of following week's episode 6. But My Eyes episode 5 is well worth watching, probably more than the previous few episodes. 8 out of 10 for the episode, 9 out of 10 for Pennywise's reveal himself. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next episode.